I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She's a physician assistant all the way out of Denver, Colorado. She is a trainer and have been an aesthetic injector for several years. Please help me to introduce Injector Lauren.
Hey guys, Lauren here.
Hey Lauren, I'm so excited to speak with you today. I have so many questions for you.
I can't wait.
Awesome. So let's jump right in.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go. So I always like to start off the interview by asking, tell us a little bit about the struggles and you getting into the aesthetic industry.
Sure. So honestly, it's pretty easy to get into the aesthetic industry. If you think about it, you can be a nurse, you can be a dentist, you can be an MD, you can be urgent care, OBGYN, primary care. I think getting into it here in Colorado is even easier. You can be an MA, you can be an esthetician. There's even a Facebook group out here where medical directors advertise themselves to be your medical director. I think the distinction is doing it well and doing it safely. So when I got into aesthetics, it was about 9 years ago. I had just finished PA school and I was following a boy to California. I was living in Georgia at the time. And so back then, this was before, you applied to jobs on LinkedIn or before, Indeed or whatever. So I flew to California. I had 300 paper resumes. I walked into 300 practices. No, it wasn't just aesthetics. It was like ortho, primary care, whatever. I just wanted a job. I got 2 interviews, 300 resumes, 7 days later, 2 interviews. One of them was 2 plastic surgeons north of San Francisco, and they had no idea what a PA was. They had no idea how to work with a PA, but they gave me a shot. They said, hey, you don't know anything about plastics. So let's do something like what we would call now a fellowship, not a formal fellowship, but a period of lower pay where you learn a lot. And I said, I'll take it. So I learned a lot. I was a surgical PA, so I did a lot of surgery, but they had old lasers in the closet that weren't being used. They did some injectables, but it could have been a bigger part of their practice. And so I was like, well, as a PA, I can do some of this independently. Do you guys mind if we, let's try the med spa thing? And they were cool with it as long as I could prove my value. There was no education back then. So learning was learn on the job or buy some textbooks or, pharma, Allergan, Galderma, they did some training back then, but not nearly what it looks like now. So I got really, really into the education. I read every book I could buy. As far as books, I even went into like skincare, Leslie Bauman's skincare book, Zaino Baji's first skincare book. And then on YouTube, I found every injecting video I could find and I dissected it. But there was no formal training. So getting into it for me wasn't the challenge. Learning was the challenge. And so I think what people face now is the expectation of getting in. They expect it's similar to getting into like nursing was. You learn on the job. You go through your nursing training and then you do this period where you're with a more senior nurse and they're talking you through the process. It doesn't really work like that anymore. It's not prescriptive. It's not direction following. It's way more art than it is science. So I think the problem now is doing it well, doing it safely. It's going to take an investment. The time and effort and money that you invest in yourself to train to become an injector, it's not only at the beginning, it's kind of an indefinite process. And I don't think it's optional. I think it's mandatory.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now you said a lot of good points that I really want to touch on that I know the audience is going to be interested in. So one, estheticians can inject in Denver, Colorado area, right? Interesting. How has that been for the community there?
It's interesting. I think there is a med spa in every corner because a hair salon can hire an esthetician, and as long as they have a physician on staff, they have a medical director, they can offer services. It's really, really common to see Botox in every medical office, primary care, urgent care. I had an inquiry from an endocrinology provider recently that wants to add it to their practice. So it's really, really common to find it. Now, that doesn't mean all Botox is the same. As I'm sure you know, not all Botox is the same. And I feel like when I moved here to Denver 3 years ago, it was a surprise to me that the standards or the expectation of clients was lower because it's so common. It's a price race to the bottom, right? Everybody has an IPL. The price of IPL plummets. And so I think what Denver is waking up to is that not all Botox is the same. So though everybody can offer it, it's super saturated in the sense that everybody has it. It's not super saturated in the sense that there's skill level variation. And I think patients are really starting to figure that out.
Wow, well, that's very interesting. It seems like a lot of competition, as you just said.
Yeah, kind of like, imagine a nail salon, right? I don't want to compare us to nail salons, but there's a lot of nail salons. What makes you different? Where is the differentiation element? I think that's what's next for Colorado. I think the differentiation is going to get wider.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand that, definitely. And another point that you did touch on is the hustle and grind that you just told me. You went to over 300 practices to find a job. And after you found the job, you were able to implement a whole new department and do a lot of self-learning to get yourself where you need to be. How do you feel as though that's required to be in the aesthetic industry? Do you feel like it takes that much to really get in and be great?
I think getting in, no, I don't think it takes that much. I think to be great, it does take that much. That's a little bit of my personality type. I'm the type that when I'm passionate about something, I really invest. I really dive in. I think there is an element of continued education that's indefinite. I do. Do I think you need to spend, 23 and a half hours a day on it? No, I think the advantage of being in aesthetics, it's a little bit more balanced at times, but I don't think you can ever stop pursuing further education. I don't think you can stop going to conferences or trainings ever. Even I'm at 10 years and I still attend 3 to 4 a year.
So I spoke to one injector, I think a couple of weeks ago, and she told me she spent $86,000 on training each year. Yeah. Is that something that is comparable?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I could probably do some basic mental math. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm definitely above 30 for the year, but I think that number doesn't surprise me at all. There is no free lunch. There's no free education anymore, right? And though I think the education is getting extremely expensive, I think we'll see, because the mass volume of education, I think we'll see prices come down a bit over time, or at least differentiate. But that number doesn't jump out at me as being an outlier.
Okay, for sure. Is there a differentiation between online and in person, or which one would you kind of recommend, or are both needed?
Absolutely. I think at the beginning, the more the better. If online gives you access to more, do it. It's usually more affordable. There's a lot of people out there that offer Patreons right now. I think those are great platforms to, tidbits here and there. In terms of really getting in the nitty-gritty and the details, I prefer in person. When COVID happened and we all went virtual, I did, like everyone else, I took a ton of virtual training. And man, was I grateful when we went back to in person, because I feel like I take so much more away from those trainings. And my personal preference is like really immersive small group type things, going to spend time with somebody in their clinic, seeing what comes into their clinic, treating that patient live with them. Not that you're doing the treatment, but that you're involved in the process. That kind of stuff I think is extremely valuable. And that has to be in person.
For sure. What are people asking for most in the Denver area? Like, what are patients coming in and requesting?
I think it's funny. I use social media. That's my marketing platform. And it's funny, whatever I post, let's just say I post 3 or 4 of the same thing, I tend to get that for a few weeks. It's sort of my marketing engine. Now, my business is run almost exclusively online, in the sense that they book online. We do online follow-up. I do Zoom consultation if they want to. Obviously, the in-person part isn't online, but maybe that's partly my own clientele. But what I'm seeing is I posted a lot of lips out here. My strategy to grow when I moved to Denver was get really good at one thing. Be really good at one thing and then expand your portfolio. So lips was kind of where I started. It was big at the time. It still is, right? So when I post a bunch of lip before and afters, I probably get, 10 to 20 new patients in the following weeks inquiring about lip filler. Most commonly, I would say right now, it's full facial balancing, lip filler, or Botox.
That's super interesting that you say that, because I speak to many providers, like, I've been doing social media for a long time and I'm barely getting any traction. What have you found to be more successful for social media?
So when people ask this, I get asked this at every training that I do. And I think you got to think about the way the social media platform works and the way the client works. So the way the social media platform works, they make money when you as a consumer spend time on their platform. So if your post encourages them to engage, they're spending more time. If they watch a video that's super engaging and they make it till the end, they're spending more time. Instagram then gets to charge more for ads because they get more exposures, right? People are spending more time on their platform. So they make more money. You as a consumer are making them more money. Me as a producer are making them more money. So creating content that's super engaging, whatever that may be, helps you. It's like the algorithm hack, not that there's really one. I don't care so much about the details. You got to have 6 posts here and 5 posts here, and this has to be under 30 seconds and whatever. It's more about, think about how it works and then think about the client. So I looked this up yesterday because I thought you might ask this question. 1.5 billion users on Instagram. 60% of those are between the ages of 18 and 35. So that's split between millennials and Gen Zs, roughly even. What do these two generations really like to do? Share their opinion. They like to voice their opinion. So give them an opportunity to do so. So I use a strategy where I do some clinical content and then I do a more informational post. My informational post is designed to like probe millennials and Gen Zs to share their opinion. It's unpopular opinions or this controversial thing, or the whole point is engagement and having a conversation around something that probably should be talked about. So in that way, I engage with my followers, but my online booking is also done through social media. So most people don't know that they can go to my website and book an appointment. They think they have to go to my Facebook or my Instagram or my LinkedIn to get a booking link. So what I'm automatically doing is forcing them to go to my social media platform to make an appointment. That helps me in terms of getting and staying connected with people. When I do discounts or when I do events, it's all via social media. So if they stay tuned, if my posts are on alert for them, they know when I'm doing a Daxi day or a filler discount day or whatever. So they're automatically alerted and have first access to booking because I do everything online. So that wasn't all done on purpose. To be honest, that all kind of happened by accident, but it works and I keep doing it.
Wow, that's super cool, because it's like you really studied it. And I totally agree with everything you're saying, because if you have the best information, you have information that's engaging, people are going to watch it. Instagram's going to reward you as a producer, like you said.
Yeah.
What are some things that people can do to give white glove service to their clientele?
I love this question. You got to be different. So around here with a med spa in every corner, they go in, they get their basic Botox, they leave. I love to be the one that gives them like a to-go pack. I know this is such a silly thing, but people love free stuff. So let's say I do lip filler. In my little to-go pack, there's a business card. Yes, just because they need, if something's going on, they need my number. On that business card is my cell phone number. There's also a QR code on that business card. The QR code takes them to a page, not only that has all my info, but has a bunch of their aftercare instructions. So it's really straightforward. They don't have to think. It's like, oh, scan, great. It's got an ice pack. It's got topical arnica. It's got oral or sublingual arnica. It's got a mint because topical numbing tastes horrible. Sometimes I put chocolates in there. The to-go thing, though it's going to go in the garbage in probably the next 10 minutes, it's like a little element of concierge service, right? It makes them feel fancier. Everything is done online, so they don't have to sit in my waiting room and do paperwork if they respond to their emails. I am my own concierge. To be honest, I don't have an assistant. I don't have an MA. So if they're reaching out to me via my platform, it's me responding. They have my phone number. They can text me, hey, Lauren, what do you think about this? Does that mean I get a lot of questionable phone calls? Absolutely. But they feel connected to me. They're invested in me. They're loyal to me, right? That makes my service slightly better. They're not following a brand. It's not like the Skin Place brand, right? It's just me. And so I think that makes my level of service feel more elevated.
Gotcha. What does community over competition mean to you?
I love this. I think the industry has gone crazy with this phrase, community over competition. And a lot of it, I think, is fake. I do. I think there's a lot of people that push that phrase, but are making choices or their actions say otherwise. I truly think the advantage of community over competition is we all get better. Rising tide rises all boats, right? So if that was truly sincere, that's awesome. We all get better. There's an organization out here in Colorado. We call it the Colorado Aesthetic Mentorship Program. And that is truly the purpose. It's not run by me. It's run by another PA, but camp is what we call it. We get together, all of us get together. We partner with usually pharma to put on an event where we talk about something hard. We did an advanced toxin one last year. We did a complications one last year. And the idea there is all of these local injectors get together to talk about difficult things. There's another group out here called Masterminds. Same idea. We all get together to talk about difficult cases. We recently did one on immunogenicity and toxins. And I think that is the practical definition of community over competition, actually sharing pearls of practice with your locals, right? Sure, it's really easy to befriend somebody in my world, Delaware or New York or whatever. But befriending my local competition and really sincerely building that relationship, sharing pearls, that's community over competition.
Gotcha. Now, being an aesthetic trainer, I'm sure you get a lot of people that come through and you train them. What are some key tips that you know off the back when you train a new person that they might tend to be a good injector by the things that they're doing?
Oh, this is a great question. There's an I in aesthetics, right? People often ask, like, can anyone be an injector? And I'm going to give you the hard answer. I don't think the answer is yes. I actually think it's no. I think there's two elements of it. Injecting takes passion and time. So a lot of people look to like Arthur Swift. He's the brightest mind in aesthetics. That guy is just really, really well read. He knows publications down to like numerical percentages. That is time he's putting in, right? He's incredibly smart and knowledgeable, but it's because he spends so much time learning it. I think there's another element. I think there's like a DNA piece, right brain, left brain people. There's the people that are great at numerical puzzles. I married one. And then there's the people that are great at, I don't know, the more artistic side of things. If you switch their brains and tell them to do the opposite task, they're not going to be as good at it, right? So I think there's an element of the aesthetic mind. Can it be developed? Totally. But you have to have at least a little bit of that interest. You have to have a little bit of the creative problem solving. That's what people think. That's where Arthur Swift, to go back to that, that's where Arthur Swift really takes it to the next level. His creative problem solving when he sees a patient it's unique to him. Not everybody loves his style, but it is a really well-developed skill that he can present. It's kind of, I've referred to this before, but Michelangelo and David. So when David was sculpted by Michelangelo made his hands and his head too big. And people were really upset about it. Like, they're really disproportionate, but Michelangelo was a step ahead. He knew that originally that statue was supposed to go on a rooftop. So people looking up at it, his head needed to be bigger and his hands needed to be bigger to really see them. That's like a whole next level of thinking, right? I think that exists in the aesthetic world. The aesthetic minds really can do that with filler and, surgery or non-surgery. And I think that can be developed, but there are people that show up with the light that's already there. It's like the glimpsest light in a tunnel and you're like, oh, you have it. We're going to develop this. We're going to push for this. I think those are the injectors that I'm like, yeah. Let's do this. Keep going.
Yes, for sure. More than just, hey, I want it, but hey, I want it. I'm going to go after it and get it. Like,
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, being an injector for so long in the game, what are some tips to having longevity in your career?
Great question. I really think this is something I wish somebody told me at the beginning. You as an injector are your patient base. So how the industry works. Example, you have a big med spa chain. Ideal Image, Laser Away, Skin Spirit, there's many. They build a brand such that patients want to go to the brand. You as an injector are a widget essentially within that brand, right? But they own the clientele. if you as an injector can own your clientele in some way, a lot of those places have a contract that includes a non-solicitation and a non-compete, right? That's pretty normal, standard in the industry. But patients actually want to follow a person. People are loyal to people they believe in and trust. So let's say for whatever reason you end the relationship with the big med spa and you go off on your own or go to a smaller place. It is hard for your patients to find you if they've been in that big corporate system and you have a non-solicitation, you have a non-compete. So a secret to success and a really long career is giving your patients an opportunity to follow you outside of that system. Give them your phone number. They can, if you signed a non-solicitation, they can contact you if you gave them your phone number. You can't contact them, but they can call you. Hey, I notice you're not at X Med Spa anymore, but I want to see you. Or you can have a private Facebook page, even if this big chain doesn't allow you to have an aesthetic page. There's a lot of places that do that. You can have a private Facebook page or Instagram page and allow them to follow information about you and your life, your kids, your husband, whatever it is, right? It can be curated about you and your life, but it doesn't have your before and afters on it. It can, this is what I'm doing a demo day. I'm doing a fancy day on this. It doesn't have to have content from the big med spa on it, but it gives your patients an opportunity to follow you. That is the value of you as an injector to any business, even your own, is that patient base. Mm-hmm. The second thing, I think burnout is real in any medical category, right? Cardiology, dermatology, aesthetics, burnout is real. So figure out what you love about the industry. And every year, for me, it's education. I truly am a nerd when it comes to literature and education. So every year, my mental breaks are learning. So I take, a couple days, go to Atlanta and train with somebody there, or Texas, or whatever it is. The making sure you keep that element in your practice that reinvigorates your passion, preventing your burnout is key. For me, that's education, right? But for other people, that might be spending time with their kids. So set aside 2 weeks a year where you just spend time with your kids and you put it away. You put your patients away, you put your business away. So that allows you survival and longevity in your career. The patient base makes it easier to do that.
Yeah, those are all really great tips and definitely can help. And new injectors, even injectors that are practicing now out in their work-life balance or really maintaining a great clientele.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Who are some key opinion leaders in the industry that the audience can follow to learn more?
I love this. So if you haven't gathered, I read a lot. I read a lot of literature. So from a literature perspective, I think the Codafanas, the Swifts, the Lee Walkers, they are pushing out some really cool stuff right now. So those are people I follow because they put numbers to aesthetic principles, if that makes sense. They measure cadaver artery placement or, the hydrophilicity of a product on a bench top. That kind of stuff is really cool to me. From an injecting perspective, I think the future of aesthetics is ultrasound. And so there's a girl in Portland. Her name is Candace. I think her company's name is Aesthetic Imaging. She's a sonographer. And I think she's very new and very early in like busting into aesthetics kind of thing. But I think she's going to do some really cool stuff with anatomy and ultrasound, not teaching you to do ultrasound, but teaching you anatomy via ultrasound. So I think she's somebody to follow. I really do think Tim Pierce has a lot of good stuff to say. He recently did a talk with Dr. Subio. So Dr. Pierce and Dr. Subio were talking about the mechanism of vascular events, and they disagreed. And I actually thought this was a really cool live because you could tell that Dr. Pierce and Dr. Subio didn't agree, but they were going back and forth and giving the data as to why. So both of those things are really cool. I know Subio does a course in Philly called Needle Art, and Dr. Pierce has plenty of stuff on the internet right now, all the courses in the world. And then I like to follow a lot of my colleagues that do Patreons. And everybody says that everybody can do a Patreon, but I think because they're brand agnostic, they're not sponsored by a pharmaceutical company, they can say, I would use Wrestle and Kiss only for this. I'm not going to use Vobella or Revenus Versa or whatever. And so I like the brand agnostic element of that. I think the big pharma talks have to be, you know, on label and they have to be brand specific. So I get a little bit less out of those. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, good. That's all really, really good information. I wanted to ask you about ultrasound. Now, you said the future of aesthetics, you feel like it's ultrasound. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah, I think ultrasound guidance is cool to a point. I think we're going to get to a place where our ultrasound, we need a little bit higher frequency ultrasound to really be able to like cut through the layers. There's a machine, oh man, MiraView maybe. That's the highest definition ultrasound that we have. I think ultrasound is already the secret to treating complications. I did a doctorate. My dissertation was on hyaluronidase and using it to treat vascular events. And there was a study, oh man, I wish I could remember the author. Long story short, you can use as little as 30 units of hyaluronidase to clear a major vascular occlusion under ultrasound guidance. Whereas the protocol that we currently follow, most people follow the De Laurenti protocol. He's a Canadian plastic surgeon who published it maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He's saying 500 to 1,000 units every hour. That's a major difference, right? 500 to 1,000 units an hour until the capillary refill is better, or 30 units under ultrasound guidance once. That's dramatic. That's enough data to support the use of ultrasound. So I think the use of ultrasound in complication management is already here. But I think ultrasound guided treatments is kind of what's coming next.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand that. Now, I know you mentioned some trainings, but is there any conferences that you can suggest to the audience for them to attend?
Yeah. So I've gone away from the big conferences for now. And let me explain why. I don't think they're bad. I think right now the big pharma and the big conferences are paying Instagram famous injectors to come and speak about their product. And though I love attending those events for networking and relationships and, you know, learning about new things, I get a little bit less about, you know, like advancing my practice from an injecting perspective, like the techniques and the anatomy and the assessment. That's what I think the real focus. That's how you become a great injector, being really good at assessment, being really good at choosing like product choice. We have 26 products. Knowing when to use exactly every single one of those, that's the best moment to do it. That's an art, right? And so I think that comes from smaller group immersive experiences. Things like Julie Kaplan's, what is it called? Head and Breakfast. Small group immersive. We're doing one out here in Colorado. We're going to do it probably in Vail. Same idea, small group immersive experiences. I love those. When I go to these conferences, I think the best thing that I take from it is a lot of pharma companies will do dinners, right? So you go to the big conference during the day and then they throw a dinner at a local restaurant at night. I sit down with a bunch of other experienced injectors and we're just like mind dumping, right? I had this case. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? I think those are, when I go to those big conferences, that's where I get the value. So I don't think you can go wrong in picking any of them. I think it's where you spend your time, right? So if you're going to just go there to sit in the big lecture hall and miss out on all the small conversations, I think you're missing the point of the conference. So I don't have a great one for you. I'm attending Learners and Legacies. I'm actually working at that one. That's I think the only big conference I'm doing this year. Everything else is small, immersive. I'm doing an ultrasound course. I did a course in Atlanta. I'm thinking about doing some shadowing in Southern Cal. For me, it's like the smaller, yes, more expensive, but the smaller immersive experiences that I really take a ton of value from.
Awesome. I'm sure the audience will learn a lot from everything that you said today. You said a lot of stuff that it was really great information. I hope you guys get those gems and really use them. But thank you so much, Lauren, for joining me and speaking more about the industry. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you got planned next.
Sure. So my clinic, my handle on Instagram is called The Skin Scholar, theskinscholar.com, The Skin Scholar on Facebook, The Skin Scholar on LinkedIn, all the things. It's an easy one. My training institute is called Core Aesthetics Training Institute. That's exactly the same thing. That's the handle. That's the website. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I do tons of mentoring calls and I'd love to help you guys.
Awesome. And until next time, bye.